That's what I thought.
Good evening. Good evening. Yes, it is a good evening. The October 12th, 2021 Liquor Board meeting is now in session. And as you know, the board now has all meetings transcribed, which serve as minutes of the hearings. The board keeps such minutes stored electronically, and they're available to review by calling the board for an appointment. I now make a motion that the transcripts of the previous board hearing held on September 14th, 2021 be accepted as the board's minutes for that date. And I ask for a second.
I second that motion.
It is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. It's carried. Thank you. I'd like to turn the meeting over to Mr. Praley, who has an announcement.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Jimmy Praley. I serve as counsel to the board. At the beginning of every meeting, counsel makes a few brief announcements. First, the commissioners before you are part-time public servants, and they have other outside interests. When they know they have a conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest, they will recuse themselves. However, they cannot possibly know who's going to appear before the public in any given matter, which may in fact present a conflict for them. So if anybody believes that any commissioner has a conflict of interest or an appearance of a conflict, you need to announce that when your case is called, and then we will address it with the commissioner or the commissioners as the case may be. If you don't, we're going to assume that the commissioners do not have a conflict, and we will proceed with the hearing under that assumption. Secondly, the board's rules and regulations provide that the chair, for the purposes of administrative and judicial economy, can have board's counsel rule on admissibility of evidence and objections if there are counsel present at any hearing and objections are made. The board handles many cases at every hearing, and that particular assignment allows us to expedite the hearings. So rather than having the chairman turn to me advising the chairman, I will simply make a ruling, and my ruling will be that of the chair and the board. So with that, I will turn it over to Inspector Ford, who can call our first case.
Inspector Jim Ford, sitting in for Chief Inspector Wayne Harris this evening. Our first summons to appear is for Bill's Lounge and Liquor, known as SJJ and Y Inc. Sun Hill Vice President Secretary.
Waive reading, Mr. Chairman.
All right.
Okay, everybody who's planning on testifying, please swear you in. Everybody will raise their right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm with the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? I do. You can have a seat if you'll please state your name and address for the record.
It's got the she's on the license.
Can you please state your name and address for the record?
Austin Han, 1671 Carriage Circle, Severn, Maryland, 21144.
Thomas Yu, 2303 Thinkamo Place, Hanover, Maryland 21076.
Sun Ho, 6448 Golden Oak Drive, Lincoln, Maryland 21090.
Hey, Corporal Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, Western District.
Mr. Chairman, if I can make a preliminary remark, just to introduce myself, Bill Pitcher on behalf of the licensees, who are the two folks sitting here at the end of the table. Next to me is Mr. Austin Hahn, who will be a witness, and he was the one that actually was in the violation situation. So we're, and I've already spoken to the officer, we're intent on pleading guilty to the violation, and we'd like to be heard in mitigation. So, and I have no questions. I'm sure he'll explain it to you.
Corporal Middleton, I am going to ask you that you read your report into the record, if you don't mind, sir.
Yes, sir. This was on August 17th of this year, 2021, approximately 4:15 p.m. Detective Greg Wright, my Sergeant White, and myself will work Operation SAVE, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source who was 19 years of age to enter Bill's Liquors at 1688 Annapolis Road, which is in Odenton, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The CS went into the store, picked out a six-pack of Bud Light beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds, was able to purchase the Bud Light beer from the clerk. The clerk did not ask our confidential source for identification. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to us. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience that Bud Light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Wright and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, identified the clerk as Mr. Austin Hahn with the date of birth of 12/18/74 from his Maryland driver's license. Mr. Hahn advised that he knows better and should have asked for identification. He advised he had been working approximately 1 month and has had the alcohol awareness training. Photograph was taken of Mr. Hahn, his driver's license, which were attached to this report, and a photograph was taken of the Bud Light beer, and then it was destroyed. Photograph was taken of the Anne Arundel County liquor license hanging on the wall behind the cashier's area, and then a copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, and that would be my statement of facts.
Thank you, Corporal Middleton. I'm sorry, Mr. Pitcher, do you have no questions? Okay. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Corporal Middleton?
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy Snoops?
No question.
Okay. Well, if there are no questions from the commissioners, we'll turn it over to you, Mr. Pitcher, in mitigation.
Thank you, Counsel. For those of you who have known me over the years here in this venue, I've oftentimes disputed some of the methods that we use as a society in these sting operations, only because I think that it sometimes it tends to weigh the state a little too heavy in the balance here of a small business person trying to make a living in the business that they are in. It's a tough business. I've often thought that, we have seen cadets come in here that have been used in these sting operations that look older than me. I have one that was almost completely bald one year, and he was under 21. So it can happen. Things are not always perfect in this situation. In this particular case, we think there are some mitigating factors that you should know. Number one, now there's just no question that he failed to ask for ID and knows he should have. Mr. Hahn, I have known for many, many years. He and his family, for over 25 years, I believe, owned New Crofton Liquors in Crofton. And I represented them on a number of administrative matters over the years, and their renewals and that sort of thing. And not once in those 25 years has he ever been in violation or was ever in violation of these liquor laws. The family decided to sell the business a year or two ago, a while ago, and he happened to know the licensees here and decided to help them out and work with them as a clerk and work with them in their business, and had been there about a month. And this was during the time that we're all wearing masks, and he had gotten to know a number of their customers over the prior month while he worked there. And the gentleman that actually operated in this sting operation appeared to Mr. Hahn, and I take him at his word. He thought it was a guy that he knew to be well over 21, an existing customer. He had just gotten to know him, and he just neglected to ask him for the ID. He thought it was his friend, the customer that had been there in their previous month. That's what happened. He didn't, with the mask, he had a little trouble finding exactly who this was, and he should have known better. He admits that, but he didn't. Now, given his record of 25 years of service in his previous license in Crofton, and with no violations, and no other that we know of in this particular venue, we think that should weigh in his favor so that you would please take that into consideration when you're thinking of this. Now, how do we make sure? I take him at his word that it's not going to happen again on his watch. But how do we make sure that this doesn't happen again with these licensees in the future? So, number one, Mr. Hahn has just gone through the has just gone through being recertified, and I'd like to just hand this up for the board's perusal, but that's his certificate of being recertified for the TIPS training, so that this board will know that Mr. Hahn is not going to lightly do this again. Number two, the licensees have installed some IT equipment into their point of sale equipment so that you cannot now in the future open that license or that
POS.
help me, yeah, the computer without scanning in an ID. And it's fairly expensive equipment, but he's gone to this trouble because he does not want this to happen again either. So now you can't sell to anyone, Sting or otherwise, unless you've scanned in an ID. So this particular situation will not happen again in that location. And we hope that you will take that into account and not suspend them any longer than absolutely necessary. They know that they're going to have to pay some fines and costs, but it's a small business, and we hope you'll take that into account. Austin, do you have anything to say? Can you explain to the board if they have any questions about how this equipment operates?
Well, we just upgrade our POS, and it's got to be scanned first, the license, and then the register going to be running, after that. So, I mean, I'm telling you guys, I know this is absolutely 100% my mistake. I feel really guilty for my boss. But this is the first time in my life, and then I just advised him and suggested him we need to upgrade the POS for the future, sell the minors or whatever is happening. You never know that. I mean, I thought I can do very well for the selling liquor, to the customers. But the thing is, it happened. So I'm really sorry for my boss. And then if we don't want to happen again, we need to upgrade something. I'm retraining, but he need to, I know it's a lot of money, but he need to upgrade the POS. That's what I thought we did. And then I'm telling you guys, it won't happen again. And then I'm sorry about that. But just it happened, I thought he was our regular customers, but, I 100% my mistake. So really sorry about that.
That's our case, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Pitcher. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of Mr. Pitcher or the licensees or the clerk?
I don't have any questions. I like the fact that we're moving forward, and I'm sorry that you got stung on this one, but looking at the future, looking at some of the things that you're doing, hopefully that's not going to happen again. So,
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Pitcher, anything you would like to add?
No, sir.
Okay. Well, with that, I will turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision.
I'm going to, just looking, how long have you owned the liquor store?
11 years.
11, okay. So you've had stings in the past. According to our records, it looked like you had, actually, this is the third one in the last 3 years. Actually, the last 5 years. Okay. I'm going to defer to the commissioners for additional comments.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Looking at the violation, and as the chairman has stated, within the 5 years you have had to add this complaint, this violation, along with the other 3 within the last 5 years. If I can make a recommendation, Mr. Chairman, at this point in time, I would like to recommend that in lieu of a suspension of having 3 violations, and because of the fact that you're being proactive, have ran out and bought an ID scanner, a POS, to utilize in the future. And having been in business for 25 years in your previous venture, I'll make a recommendation of $1,000 plus hearing fee, and that would be my recommendation.
Okay, I'll take that recommendation in the form of a motion, and I'll second that motion. Any further discussion? Seeing none. Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The motion's carried. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay, our second case is Fort Liquors, known as DSSY Inc., Dong Suk Nam, President, Yong Tae Min, Vice President, Brenda Park, Clerk, Detective T. Middleton, number 1061, Detective Greg.
Okay, great, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. I'm sorry.
If I can swear everybody in.
Swear everybody.
Do you solemnly declare and affirm on the penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
You can have a seat, but can you please say your name and address for the record?
Brenda Park, 1803 Pine Grove Court, Severn, Maryland, 21144.
Dong Suk Nam, 7865 Port Capitol Road, Elkbridge, Maryland, 21075.
Yong Tae Min, 1135 Carbondale Way, Cambridge, Maryland, 21054.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Peter Prevas, Prevas, on behalf of the licensees. Present is Ms. Brenda Park, who was the clerk that sold to the minor. Mr. Dong Suk Nam, the owner and licensee, as well as Yong Tae Min, the other owner and licensee. We waive a reading of the charges and would like to admit the violations.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Previous. Corporal, have you said your name and address for the record?
No, sir. Corporal Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, Western District.
Okay, seeing as you have waived the reading from Corporal Middleton, we'll accept that. I would like, it would be your opportunity to ask the corporal if you have any questions about his report, though.
No questions.
Okay, all right. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of Corporal Middleton about the report that was?
I don't. No.
Commissioners, any questions?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Previous, we'll turn it over to you in mitigation here then.
Thank you. Should I stand? I'm not sure whether Corporal went to this place first or the other place first, but I think they were just a few blocks away, and it was the same evening, and it's basically the same scenario, and I think it was a six-pack of Bud Light as well. Mr. Nam has been a client of mine for many, many years, but not in the context of his liquor store. He's owned Fort Liquor since June of 2013. He was present when this occurred, but he happened to be in the back checking inventory and was not at the cash register when this occurred. Ms. Park, you'll note on the charges that there's a restriction on the license that all employees shall be alcohol awareness certified, and they in fact are and were, and Ms. Park was, and I have a copy of that to present to the board. She had worked here for about a year and a half prior to this incident and had worked as a liquor store clerk for 7 years total before this occurred. She's alcohol awareness certified. She knows the rules. She knows she's supposed to card people that look like they may remotely be underage. And she just candidly told Corporal Middleton she just let her guard down. I don't know that this counts as mitigation or it's in fact aggravation, but she said what threw her was the gentleman had a hat on and a mask. And my reaction to that was, well, that's all the more reason that you should check somebody's cards. But she said, I'm not using that as an excuse. I'm just, if I have to go back in my mind to figure out why this happened to me, it must be because I couldn't read the gentleman's face. So I appreciate that she's that she was so candid, and although she no longer works at the store, that she's come here to be involved in this hearing and to answer any questions if anybody had questions for her. Since this occurred, Mr. Nam has placed on the point of sale system an admonition that comes up when you go to ring a sale that says the age for sale of alcohol is today's date, 2001 at the time, and for tobacco, 2003. I have a copy of that as well that I will hand up to remind everybody. He also has signs underneath the cash register, on the side of the cash register, and the policy now, if it hasn't been in the past, is everybody gets carded, regardless of age, and that way there's no room for error, and that will be the policy going forward. The establishment, he's been there since 2013. He did have a prior violation in 2018 for selling to a minor. He believes, although he has no record, that he's been checked on other occasions where he and his employees have carded and have complied with the law. I'm not sure if the board's records or Corporal has any recollection of that, but he does say that he believes that he had been checked before. With regard to a card reader, he said he had purchased a card reader and has had nothing but technical problems with it, and he's still trying to get that fixed. He's noted to me that certain card readers, if the person is good enough to make a fake ID, they're good enough to fake the barcode on the fake ID, and a fake ID can get through the card reader as well. So what really counts is the clerk being vigilant at every point in time and checking and looking at the card and checking the dates. So I have copies for the board of his signs with regard to the policy, the types of IDs that are acceptable, the notice that comes up on the point of sale system, and the alcohol awareness certificates for Ms. Park, as well as the licensees and all of the existing employees.
Thank you, Mr. Rivas. We're going to give the board just a minute to take a look at these. All right, and while they're looking at it, do you have anything else that you'd like to add?
Just the final comment is that Mr. Nam is trying to reinforce this. While he's there, it never seems to be a problem. If he turns his back, it's when it appears that things can happen. The prior incident was another clerk who's no longer with the establishment. But he's trying to reinforce this weekly to the employees, telling them he's very worried that he's going to lose his business, lose his family's investment. He takes this extremely seriously, and he is vigilant to remind them weekly so that this doesn't happen again. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, any questions of counsel or the licensees or the clerk?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
Okay, well, with that, I'll leave it to the board for deliberation and decision.
I'm going to go ahead and make a motion that we, in lieu of the fact that you were fined and back in 2018, that on these two counts, each one be $350 and court costs. So I'm putting that in the form of a motion. be $350 on each count plus court cost. Do I have a second?
I would second that motion.
The motion is second. Is there any discussion at this point? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Do you want these back, Mr. Freitas?
Sure, whatever. Thank you very much. Thank you, Corporal.
Our next case is Goldberg's Liquors, known as
Thank you, Mr. Bittner.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, staff. I'm Richard Bittner on behalf of the licensees, Goldberg's.
Raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm the penalty of perjury, testimony about to give the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please state your name and address for the record, please.
Amy Hatfield, 5200 Virginia Highway, Baltimore, Maryland, 21225.
Alan Aronson, 7719 Locust Grove Road, Glen Burnie, Maryland, 21060.
Richard Bittner on behalf of the licensees.
Corporal Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police Department, Western District.
All right, thank you. Corporal Middleton, if you could please read your report into the record.
Mr. Chairman, if the board please, this will be an admission on behalf of my clients. I have an opportunity to speak with the officer and review his report, and we'll be making an admission. Ask that the state count merge.
Okay. Are you okay with waiving the reading of the report?
We'll waive the reading as well, yes.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Bittner, with that, do you have any questions of Corporal Middleton based on the report?
I do not. It's my understanding from the report that Ms. Hatfield was polite and cooperative.
Okay.
That's correct.
Submit on that.
All right, thank you. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Corporal Middleton based on the report that we have?
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
All right, Mr. Bittner, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Praley. Members of the board, I think what presents itself to you all this evening is that old adage that one time is bad luck, twice is a coincidence, and three times is a habit. The board certainly notes that Goldberg's Liquors has been one of the best-run establishments here in Anne Arundel County. Your records belie that fact. This family's owned the establishment since 1974. Family operation. It was Alan's parents. It's now he and his father. And if I may, we sent in a letter, and if the record will reflect, we'll waive any appeal from Mr. Aaronstein's lack of presence here. He had some COVID concerns. He's not sick, but he's 85, so we'd ask that you would excuse him.
Yeah, understood. Thank you, Mr. Bittner.
So to return to that, the family's had the license since 1974 without any incident until 2018 when they had a violation. Different clerk, a clerk who had been employed at that time for some 5.5 years. This clerk has been employed with the store for 21 years. No violations. Confiscated hundreds of IDs in that time. The Aronson family's been, as I say, one of the better operators in the county. They've been proactive long before it was required that all employees have TIPS TAMS certification. The Aronsteins did it. They have 10 full-time employees. They're all TIPS TAMS. Long before card readers became fashionable, they had them. They have a written policy on carding. They have signage up. Unfortunately, the clerk made a mistake. She told that to the officers. She told it to herself. She told it to her employers. She made a mistake. I'd ask most respectfully, given a record since 1974 with one blemish, they received a reprimand for that 2018 incident, that they've been proactive. They continue to be proactive. Mr. Aronson, after this incident, met with all of his employees. They went over the policy again. They reviewed their commitment. And you just have to double down because they don't want to be here the third time and you all saying it's a habit. It's a bad coincidence. I'd ask you to view it at that and impose a modest monetary fine. They're available for any questions. Not the clerk, Ms. Hatfield. She would invoke any Fifth Amendment privilege.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Bittner. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions of Mr. Bittner or the licensee?
I don't, no questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
Yes, I just have one question in reference to the employee. Is she still employed?
Yes, she is.
Okay,
Anything else, Commissioner Duffy?
no.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
No, I have no questions.
Okay. Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Bittner?
No, I don't want to belabor it, but again, as I look over the board's records, it's just replete with inspected, no violations, inspected, establishment managed well, cooperative, establishment managed well, establishment managed well. It's a bad coincidence. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, we'll turn it over to the board for deliberation and an ultimate decision.
Okay. Yeah. Being in business that many years is certainly a great credit to you, and the fact that you had no violations for a number of years is terrific. But unfortunately, we forgot to card the confidential source, and bingo, here we are. But I'm going to impose a $250 fine on each count as a suggestion and a motion, plus court costs, and I look for a second.
I would second the motion.
Motion is second. Is there any additional discussion? Questions? No. Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, would the count two merge?
No, they weren't merged. It was $250 on each count.
Thank you very much.
You bet.
You all stay safe. Thank you.
Thank you all. Take care.
Our next case is Wallchapel Wines, known as Wallchapel Wines, Inc. Sanjeev Jatain, President, Secretary. Anthony Patrick Figliozzi, Vice President. Mahesh Patel, Clerk. Detective T. Middleton, number 1061. Detective Greg Wright, number 2029. Sergeant White, number 1329. Inspector Jason McCarthy. This is a Class A beer, wine, liquor, beer, wine, spirit tasting, and Sunday license. They're located at 2646 Chapel Lake Drive, Gambrills, Maryland, 21054. There are no restrictions on the license. 1. Violation of the rules and regulations of the Board of License Commissioners for Anne Arundel County. Chapter 4, Section 4.01A, minors, regarding Anne Arundel County Police Report number 21-727462 by Detective Greg Wright, number 2029, Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. Incident dated August 18th, 2021. 2. Violation of alcoholic beverages 1, Titles 1 through 12, Annotated Code of Maryland, Title 6, Section 6-304, selling or providing alcoholic beverages to individual under the age of 21 years, regarding Anne Arundel County Police Report number 21-727462 by Detective Greg Wright, number 2029, Sergeant White, number 1329, and Detective Middleton, number 1061. Incident dated August 18th, 2021.
Do solemnly declare and affirm that the guilty perjury, testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Have a seat. Please state your name and address for the record.
Sanjeev Jatain, 729 Chrisfield Way, Annapolis, Maryland. Mahesh Patel, 1408 Lehman Court, Annapolis, MD21409.
Anthony Figliozzi, 3340 Patuxent River Road, Davidsonville, Maryland, 21035.
Cool. And I would like to represent our case. I think that day, I will start with the
Well,
officer.
hold on 1 second. We need Corporal Middleton to put his.
Corporal Tom Middleton, Anne Arundel County Police, Western District.
And I'm sorry, sir, were you saying that do you want the corporal to waive the reading of his report?
No, I would like him to read and describe the incident.
Okay, absolutely.
Thank you.
Corporal, if you don't mind reading the report into the record, please.
Yes, sir. This incident was August 18th of this year, 2021. It was approximately 3:45 in the afternoon. Detective Greg Wright. Sergeant White and I were working Operation SAVE, conducting alcohol sales compliance checks of retail businesses. We directed a confidential source, 19 years of age, subject, to enter the village. Remember I called this, it's Wall Chapel Wines, 2646 Chapel Lake Drive in Gambrels, Anne Arundel County, Maryland. We observed the confidential source enter the business. The CS went to the store, picked out an 18-pack of natural light beer, took it to the front counter. The CS was given official Anne Arundel County funds, was able to purchase the natural light beer from the clerk. The clerk did ask the CS for identification, at which time he advised he did not have one with him. The clerk turned to the manager and asked him what to do. The manager asked the CS to pull down his mask and asked him a date of birth. The CS stated March 19th of 1999. The manager then asked, "Are you working with the state or the police? Is this a sting?" The CS nodded his head no. The manager then told the clerk to sell the alcoholic beverage to the CS. The CS exited the business, immediately turned over the alcoholic beverage to myself and the other detectives. I know through my training, knowledge, and experience that natural light beer is an alcoholic beverage. Detective Wright and I entered the store, identified ourselves as police officers, and identified the clerk as Mahesh Patel through his Maryland driver's license. Mr. Patel advised that he was not going to sell the alcoholic beverage, but followed his manager's decision. The manager on the scene was identified as Sanjeev, the pronunciation, Jatan, via his Maryland driver's license. He advised told me he felt something wasn't right, but he thought he asked appropriate questions before he made the decision to sell the alcoholic beverage. I advised him to always ask and see identification to prove the age of the buyer. The photograph was taken of both clerk and manager, driver's license, and also the Anne Arundel County liquor license was hanging on the wall behind the cashier area. Photograph was taken of the natural light beer, and it was destroyed, and a copy of this report was forwarded to the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board, and that would be my statement of facts.
All right, thank you, Corporal Middleton. And sir, this is your opportunity to ask the corporal questions based on his report. It's not your time to present your case. We'll turn it over to you in a minute. But if you have any questions of Corporal Middleton,
No
now's the time. Okay, no questions. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Corporal Middleton?
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
Okay. All right. Well, with no questions, sir, we'll turn it over to you. Now this is your opportunity to present your case.
Thank you.
Okay.
So that day, I was Mahesh Patel, he was the cashier, and we do check every single ID. That day, we have a lot of inventory, and I was working in store preparing for the weekend. So I did ask him, he pulled his mask down, looks fine, but the issue is, we asked him many times, he wasn't leaving, and we have 5 more people in the line. So because of this situation, I made a decision. If we asked so many questions, all the legit questions, and he answered, looks like he's legit, so serve it. There was a mistake, and we're going to learn from our mistake, and moving onwards, we'll make sure everyone has an ID. We do have a scanner, ID scanner. It's working fine, but because the customer doesn't have, or under 21 doesn't have an ID, we couldn't scan it. And the decision was made, that was a bad decision that day, and we're going to learn from it. I have a couple things over there. He has mask. I asked him to take it. He took the mask down, didn't put it up. And he was tall, around 6'1" or 6'2". Looks like he's over 21. And when I asked his age, he said, "This is my age. March 99 is over 21." And the other thing is, I think doing this way, we are training under 21 how to buy liquor. And they're going to tell 20 other people. 20 will tell 100 other people. So if, as a retailer, my request is, if we as a business owner or the clerks ask you or a customer, are you show our license? They don't have it. But if we ask you ID, and if we ask you, but they don't have to stay there. They have to go back. They cannot just hold us and have 5 more customers. This is my bread and butter. So we're going to accept it, but there is a gray area. This gray area has to be worked. And I don't know whether it was under 21. That he looks fine. That's why we made a decision.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
Yeah, I just want to, going back to the text and the report itself, and the manager, I guess, were you the manager on duty?
Yeah, I was the manager on duty.
Is the clerk is here, yes. Right? So he asks you what you should do.
Yeah.
And if you weren't there, I mean,
yeah.
I'm missing something here.
I would not have given it.
Is what?
I would not have sold the liquor.
Okay. I'm not sure who needs to go through alcohol awareness again. So anyway, that's an interesting point. And I guess it is your business, no question about it. And if you've got a line backing up because somebody can't produce an ID, you're just going to have to manage the business, I'm thinking. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions or comments?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
I have no questions.
All right, sir, would you like to add anything based on the comments of the board?
No.
Okay. All right, well, with that, we will turn it over to the board for deliberation and a decision.
Yeah. This whole dialogue kind of just confuses me, and I think we pretty much know that if somebody comes to the counter, whether he has a mask or not, because we've been wearing masks for 18 months, when we've been open at least, right? Some of the places have been closed, but the point is that the mask shouldn't have anything to do with it. It's the ID that's the key. Your job is to basically check everybody that comes through and make sure that you're not selling to minor, which is a serious offense. So I'm going to defer again to the commissioners for some thoughts, and I'll come back. Thank you.
Thank you. Chairman Malone, I just want to say that as a supervisor and as the manager, we are, and many times, to set example for our employees. And though your employee stated that he would not have sold it if you had not been present, then I would just like to say that based upon your example to him, it was demonstrated that even though you have a POS, and ID scanner, that you are above the law in per se of checking IDs, and it was a very poor example to set for an employee. So, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion at this point in time in lieu of the fact that they only had one other violation, that we levy a fine of $400 per account with the stipulation that the manager attend TIP training and be recertified to show the emphasis of the importance of checking IDs and to set a clear example for employees to follow. That
Okay.
would be my recommendation, and
So we've got,
As a motion.
as I hear it correctly, a fine of $400 per count,
yes,
plus court costs, plus a recertification
yes,
of the manager, either in tips training or in alcohol awareness, okay? Let's put that in the form of a motion, and I'll entertain a second. Anybody, thoughts?
I'll put a motion for the $400 per violation, plus the court costs, plus the recertification of the matter.
Okay. I read that as a second to my motion. And any further discussion on that? Seeing none, I'll call a question. All those in favor say aye. Aye.
aye.
The motion is carried. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Our next case is Senor's Chili Cantina, known as Senor Chili Cantina, LLC.
Thank you, Mr. Brown.
It's getting hotter in here. Open the window.
Can we put it, Mr. Chairman, can we put our jacket on?
Yeah, I think so. Come on, they must have some. Yeah.
My name is Judith Mulrennan, 413 3rd Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403.
My name is Eledeya Lopez Merino, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403.
My name is Harry Somran, 8-year Woods Court, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403.
Go ahead, Mr. Brown. Sorry, we're just discussing the heat in this room and whether we can get the air conditioning on. So,
they asked me earlier about it, and I said, with this many lawyers, you're not going to get it done. So, I mean, what can I say?
We're not doing this on purpose. Trust me.
And I'm surprised you all recognize me because the photo one here isn't the best. Okay, but if you're using it for identification, those things aren't going to work real well. But anyway, Mr. Chairman, members of the board, my name is Samuel J. Brown, and I represent the transferees before you tonight. As you know, this is a license that's been existed as Rico's Tacos, located in Baydale Drive. They closed down around the pandemic time and have not opened it again, and they're transferring this to Senor Chili's Cantina, LLC. The people involved here, to my left, Ms. Mulrennan, is the qualifier. She has no involvement with the business as such, but she's here because she can qualify, and she's been in town for a while. She brought her own personal attorney with her, who's her husband in the back, Mr. Mulrennan, so he's here just to make sure that everything goes well. So I'm under the gun right now to make sure we do things correctly. The others, to the left is our owner, and far left is one of the managers of the place, who's a relative also. We present to you a business that is not going to change at all, except from their position, it'll be better food. Okay? I would like to advise the board, number one, as our first exhibit would be the application, the file that we presented before the board. I'm assuming the board will accept it that way.
Absolutely.
Number two, we posted the property. I don't know if you need a copy of the posting. I know we're supposed to get these 10 days in advance, but I provide you, I have the copy here. If you need a copy, to show it was posted in a timely fashion. Ms. Hagner's saying we don't need it from me because you already have something, so somebody beat me to the punch. Okay, well, thank you. So it's the intent, they've been operating under the name of Senor Chili's because we asked for this several months ago, and they have a management agreement that's been filed, manager's agreement that's been filed in order to go forward on this way. There's no changes in the hours of operation. There's no changes in the food that is served. There's no changes outside. As you know, they have an outsourced service in the back area. They have a bar area with TVs in it, and they will continue to operate as has been operated in the past. It's a rarity that you see so many things on Facebook and all that, but they have over 100 positive comments that were made about them, and since I didn't send these 10 days in advance, you don't get to read them.
But I'm just telling you that the people talk about as they say, it's a great local spot with awesome foods and drink. They like the 6 different tacos and the different things they have there. So it's been very well accepted in the community. And as you know, Baydale is really a cosmopolitan. It had the Greek, it has the Italian, it has the Mexican, it's got the crab. It's got a little bit of everything over there, and the Chinese, and it's been there for a while. And this adds to the premises, and they do a good job over at that location. If there's any specific questions, I hope, Mr. Praley, we have all our documents in. If we're missing anything, I know you'll let me know. Hopefully you have everything from us, and we just ask that the transfer be approved.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Mr. Chairman, any questions of Mr. Brown?
No questions.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
No, I just omitted saying the menu.
What?
He wants to see the menu.
You want to see the menu?
I just omitted saying the menu.
You know what? I didn't ask them to bring one. I apologize. But can you read Mexican?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
Spanish very well.
Well, then, you know what? I will send one in for the file, just to have it. I will make sure. In fact, at the city one time, 25 years ago, I got denied a license until I brought them a copy of the menu.
Thank you.
And that was from Sam Gilmer, if you remember Mr. Gilmer, when he was on the city board years and years and years ago. But anyway, I apologize. I didn't have him bring a menu in. I should have thought about that, but I didn't.
An email copy tomorrow morning will be submitted.
No problem. Do you need a sample of everything on there, too?
If you don't mind.
Just want to make sure.
Fully catered lunches are appreciated. Commissioner Stoops, do you have any questions of Mr. Brown?
I have no questions.
Okay. Mr. Brown, any additional testimony tonight?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, then we'll turn it over to the board here.
Well, I'll make a motion that we accept, what are we doing here? The application for Bay Hill Tacos, and looking for a second.
I'll second the motion.
It's second. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, the motion carries, or no, it doesn't carry. All those in favor, say aye.
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 Now it carries. Thank you.
Thank you all very much.
Congratulations. Good luck.
Enjoy the heat.
Yeah, thank you.
Don't forget to mail the menu.
Yeah.
Our next case is Crafty Crab.
Thank you, Ms. Carter.
He's taking readings in here. It's like
Hey, Sam, how are you?
there is an issue.
We're going to be done in 15 minutes.
All right, if I could swear your clients in, if you please raise your right hand. Do you solemnly declare and affirm on the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Thank you. If you can state your name and your address for the record, please.
Shane Yang, 2675 Orchard Oriole Way, Odenton, Maryland 21113.
Conley Chen, 11017 Lunes Drive, Lower Potomac 20878.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, members of the board and staff. My name is Linda Carter. I'm here on behalf of Carter Law. And tonight it's my pleasure to be before you in connection with Crafty Crab that recently opened at Arundel Mills on June 17th, right? Roughly, of this year. In the space that years ago, I believe, was occupied by Chili's, but more recently by a hamburger place that didn't have a very long life. Hopefully, Crafty Crab will far exceed the life expectancies of their predecessors, and I think given the product that they have, they will. We have submitted an exhibit book, and we would respectfully request that that be moved into evidence. At section 1 is one of the pages from their web page. Section 2 is the existing floor plan, which they're operating under now. Section 3 are the copies of the actual menus that are in use at the restaurant. I actually have a real menu if you want it.
I heard it in color for them.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you. Because the food, I have to admit, seafood looks much better in color than it does in black and white. And at the end, there are actually pictures of the food that is served at the establishment. And I understand that actually one of the board members, at least, has had the opportunity to eat at Crafty Crab. And I would be willing to guess that the food is actually representative of the pictures that are submitted, at least when I've eaten there. My two witnesses tonight, this gentleman is primarily an investor, but the gentleman here, you can hold responsible for the cooking. He's in the kitchen 8 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. He's also an experienced Chinese chef, and he has a Chinese restaurant at which he also works 6 or 8 hours a day, 5 to 6 days a week. So he's a very busy person. We would proffer for the board, Mr. Chairman and members of the board, that all of the information contained in the application is still true and correct as we appear before you tonight. There have been no changes. The restaurant is currently opened. The doors are open, let me rephrase that, from 11 o'clock in the morning till 9:49, Sundays through Thursdays, and on Saturdays and Fridays from 11 a.m. to 10:49. So if you walked in at 10:45, you could still get a meal. They'll let you eat, but after 10:49, you can't come in. Their customer counts are increasing. They're doing approximately 70 to 80 Monday through Thursday, and 100 to 200 on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And if I were to ask my witnesses this, they would tell you there is not a day that goes by that at least one individual or a family or a group of individuals doesn't walk out because they don't have the ability to serve beer, wine, and liquor. Every day, right?
Correct.
If the board were to approve this license, however, while we anticipate that the customer counts will increase by about 50%, possibly more, we think the food-alcohol ratio is going to be about 80% food, 20% alcohol. The alcohol is really an accommodation to the customers that come in because they want their crabs or their boiled shrimp or their fried food with that glass of cold beer or a cocktail, but it's not going to become a bar. The outside dining portion of this is almost a misnomer, but we weren't really sure how we should handle it. The outside portion is the fenced-off portion that's within the mall, but it's not under the roof of the restaurant, but it's under the roof of the mall. So I'm not really sure if that's outside or not, so just in case, we decided we better put it that way. My client spent more than $400,000 fitting out a premises that already had the existing infrastructure, the bathrooms, the hood, the electrical, the plumbing. So the $400,000 was really pretty much cosmetic and a few kitchen upgrades. And if you look at the pictures, which are very much representative of what's there, I think you'll agree with me, I hope, that the money was well spent. Both gentlemen, I am happy to say, have recently passed the alcohol awareness class, and they are going to have everybody involved in the handling of alcohol awareness certified. And we've talked about the difference between training and certification, and they're going for the certification because they understand, and they were privy to seeing 4 cases before us tonight, so they understand the importance of making sure that not only they, but their employees abide by the laws of the state and the rules of this board in reference to the sale and service of alcohol. I was told this board needed to get out of here at 7:20 tonight. We would be prepared to submit unless you all have additional questions.
Thank you, Ms. Carter. Mr. Chairman, any questions?
I have no questions.
Commissioner Dovey?
No questions.
Commissioner Snoops?
No questions.
Ms. Carter, anything you'd like to add?
We would respectfully request that the license be granted as requested. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We'll turn it over to the board for deliberation and decision.
Okay, everything was good. I love the pictures and the menu.
I love the food.
There you go.
Thank you.
Cat's out of the bag. We know who went.
We know who it was. Right, we know who it was. But I'll go ahead and make a motion, then we will grant the license as requested. And I look for a second.
I second the motion.
Motion is second. Further discussion at all? Comments? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. Congratulations. Good luck.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
And the kitchen is open until 9:49.
All right.
Let me ask a question.
Yes, there is air conditioning.
This is off the record. Your restaurant in Jacksonville, I think I'll visit that as well.
Okay.
It is a growing concept. We recently opened one in Owings Mills, and we've got a couple more on the books. So it's you'll hopefully be seeing us again.
Yeah. Great.
Excellent.
Thank you all so much. Have a great and
Take
safe
care.
evening. And Mr. Chairman, I have to tell you, as always, your staff is phenomenal. In these COVID times, everything has been trying in an effort. And in spite of everything, your staff has just been extraordinary. So thank you.
Well, thank you for those comments.
Thank you.
Y'all have a good one. Be safe.
too.
Our next case is Park Wine and Spirits, known as Natraj Wine and Spirits LLC. Michael Ann Gomez, member. Nirav M. Pancholi, member. Inspector Nicholas Garvey. This is for a new license. They're located at 802 Pinnacle Drive, Suite 102 and 103, Linthicum Heights, Maryland, 21090. And this is for a Class A beer, wine, liquor, beer, wine tasting, and Sunday license.
Okay, please raise your right hand. You solemnly declare and affirm under the penalty of perjury the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Thank you. If you could just state your name and address for the record. You have a seat.
Nero Bencholi, 7004, Whitson Way, Hannibal, Maryland, 21076.
Michael Ann Gomez, 8376 Williamstown Drive, Millersville, Maryland, 21108.
Gaurav Gupta, 12203 James Madison Lane, Glendale, Maryland, 20769.
Shep Touye, 614 Taman Drive, Annapolis, Maryland, 21403.
Thank you. My name is Chris DiCarlo. I'm the attorney for the applicants. I work with the law offices of Talking & O in Howard County, and that's DECARLO. If I may, I proceed with a brief opening.
Absolutely, Mr. DiCarlo. This is actually going to be your opportunity to present the case however you want by way of proffer. I see you have Mr. Touye there, so you might want to ask him some questions, but the floor is yours, sir.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you, Commissioners, thank you, staff, thank you everyone for attending. We are here tonight for a new Class A store off Pinnacle Drive, or on Pinnacle Drive, it's off Nursery Road. And you'll hear this from Mr. Touye in a moment, but the zoning context of this area is very unique, and it provides a public need for the store, which will be testified to. It is right on the cusp of the BWI mixed-use overlay district, which is a targeted growth area, a critical economic area of the county, and has also been identified for recent residential growth, which includes over 1,000 new units that are going to be coming online, that this boutique store is going to offer a convenient shop for. I'd ask that the application be submitted as Exhibit 1, which includes the floor plan as well as the articles of organization, the zoning overview, and the various other documents required with the application. We also submitted a business plan and various planning documents, and I'd ask that they all be admitted into the evidence.
Sure. Everything that's been submitted to the board will be accepted as part of the record as your exhibits.
Thank you. And then to my left, I do have Nirav Pancholi. He is the 90% owner of Nataraj Wine and Spirits, trading as Park Wine and Spirits. He is 90% owner-operator. To his left is Mickey Gomez. She is the resident agent for the store. She's a 10% owner. She's lived in Anne Arundel County for 16 years and understands fully that she is responsible as the resident agent on the license to the board for the store being in compliance with all of the rules and regulations. And then to her left is Gaurav Gupta, who goes by Nick Gupta. Mr. Gupta has been hired by Mr. Pancholi to operate as a general manager for the store. Mr. Gupta has years of experience running a store in the Watergate complex in D.C. that was also a boutique store. And he has wine and spirit knowledge that he'll be bringing onto this enterprise. With that, I do have some questions for Mr. Pancholi, and then I have some questions for Mr. Touye regarding the public need.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Good evening, Mr. Pancholi. Are you one of the owners and an authorized member of Park Wine and Spirits, LLC?
Yes, sir, I am.
Have you ever been convicted of a felony?
No, sir.
Have you ever held a liquor license before?
No, sir.
When are you proposing to open this store?
As per our discussion with Mickey and everything, we're looking to open up the store within the next 6 months. Per rules and regulations and everything goes to plan.
And are you going to be a full-time operator of the store?
Yes, I am.
How often do you plan on being at the store?
Currently, I am working a full-time job, so I am planning to be Monday to Friday in afternoons once I'm done with my regular job, and then Saturday, Sunday, I'll be there all day.
And what is your regular job?
I currently work at a Bank of America as an assistant manager in Columbia, Maryland, in Columbia Mall.
And how far away is that from the proposed location?
Roughly about 20 minutes, give or take.
What's your educational background?
I have my associate degrees in criminal justice criminology, and right now pursuing my bachelor in.
And why did you decide to open the store at this location?
I always had an interest of being a small business owner, especially working in the financial industry and speaking with other small business owners. Also have the ability to be part of the community, provide to the community, and bring more jobs to the community.
And other than you and Ms. Gomez, does anyone else have a financial interest in the store?
No, sir.
You also submitted a business plan, or you prepared a business plan?
Yes, sir.
Does that business plan accurately reflect your proposed store concept?
Yes, it does.
Can you briefly just explain to the board your concept?
So basically, the store that we're planning to open up, it's going to be more towards a boutique. It's going to be craft beer, wine, and spirit store. Our agenda is to make sure that we have the selection of niche products that serves to both clienteles of depending on their needs. We won't have any kind of regular, the color signs that a normal liquor store would have. We're planning to have a different, unique experience for the customer, also have more educations for the customer for liquor or wine craft beers. Also, we're planning to have a community organization or, fundraiser events per approval by the county, and also have some sort of wine tasting, etc. in the store.
So is it your goal to really be a part of the community, this new BWI mixed-use district?
Yes.
And are you going to be offering lottery?
We are, but that is not the primary focus of the store.
Will there be a hangout area for people to play Keno?
No, sir.
Are you going to be doing check cashing?
No, sir, we're not.
And when you were speaking of the advertising signs or the discount signs, are you talking about the handwritten signs?
Handwritten signs on, normally if you walk to different stores, they have a different way of promoting their stores or their sales. We are not trying to do that. It'll be more unique store.
How about discount window wrapping on the outside?
We won't.
Isn't it your goal to have an attractive appearance from the road?
Yes, sir, we are.
Have you completed a state-certified alcohol awareness training program?
Yes, I do, and I do have my certificate with me.
Thank you. And how many employees do you plan on having?
So at the moment, we're planning to have 4 employees, but then depending on the business need and the growth of the business, we may have more opening.
How do you intend on training your employees in alcohol awareness and compliance?
So all the employees within 30 days of being hired, they will be taking course in alcohol awareness and make sure that they are certified in it.
Will you also be offering refresher courses?
Yes, semi-annually.
Are you going to be using a scanner to check IDs? Is that part of your POS system?
Yes, especially learning from the previous cases. We will have the POS system that will require to scan IDs, and we will not take any vertical IDs or expired IDs. Regardless whether the customer is a frequent customer or whether they're a new customer, everyone will be ID'd regardless.
And you and I have reviewed the various regulations, specifically Chapters 4 and Chapters 3 of the Rules and Regulations of the Board of License Commissioners. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, we have.
And I provided you a copy of those rules?
Yes, sir.
And you understand those rules?
Yes, sir.
Are you able to ensure to this board that no prohibited practices will occur in the store?
That is correct.
And how would you respond to any concern regarding loitering or underage drinking?
So we will not be selling any alcohol to any minor, especially any unaccompanied minor coming into the store. We will not permit that. And I am fully aware of that if I do serve any kind of alcohol to any minor or any underage customer, I will lose my license and I will be held responsible for it.
And can you ensure that the operation of the store will not unduly disturb the peace and safety of nearby residents?
That is correct.
And do you believe that the store will impact the health, safety, and welfare of the community in a negative way, including crime, traffic conditions, parking, or convenience?
No, sir, it will not.
And in your opinion, would the granting of this license be an accommodation to the public?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. That's all the questions I have for Mr. Pincioli.
Thank you.
If you'd like me to just move on to Ms.
Go ahead.
Sure. Can you briefly describe your professional background and qualifications to the board?
Excuse me, yes, I'm a land use planner, and I've testified before the Anne Arundel County Liquor Board on a number of occasions over the years, primarily with respect to public need.
Given that experience, I guess it's fair to say you're very familiar with planning and growth in the county, as well as the liquor laws and the various regulations?
Yes, and I did work for Anne Arundel County for about 15 years before I went into the consulting business.
And you submitted, or we submitted, various planning documents to the board about a week ago. Can you please run through those documents and explain those to the board?
Sure. This is I've testified before this board on many Class A licenses, and this is a little bit different than some of the other ones that I've done because of the uniqueness of the location and its relationship to the airport and the BWI mixed-use overlay. It's not just that. If you think of this property, 802 Pinnacle Drive is just to the north of Route 295, BW Parkway. And the only thing behind the store and the development it's in is Patapsco State Park. And so when I look at a 1 and 3 mile radius, much of the 1 mile radius is made up of a few low-density houses to the west, and then big swaths of state-owned Patapsco State Park without any residents. And then when you look at the 3 mile, it takes in a significant part of Howard County and Baltimore County. Since the board doesn't have jurisdiction over people in Howard County and Baltimore County, I focused on its location and its relationship to BWI and the BWI mixed-use overlay. One of the documents that you have is from the new general development plan that was passed this past spring, became effective in July. It's called Plan 2040. And this property and the BWI mixed-use overlay are in what is called the critical economic growth area. Obviously, the plan was adopted by Counsel, and the description of the critical economic growth area is existing or planned regional scale destinations, employment centers, or areas supporting the county's major economic drivers where development, redevelopment, and revitalization are encouraged. These areas are primarily industrial, commercial, and mixed land uses within the priority funding area and have flexible land use policies to facilitate business growth and job creation. The priority funding area is a state designation that the state says we will only send capital funding and resources to various growth areas if you're in the primary growth area. Of course, being part of the greater airport area, we are, along with Fort Meade, without a doubt, the two driving economic engines in Anne Arundel County in terms of business and employment. And of course, with that comes the opportunity for people to hopefully live nearby where they work. So the policies that the council adopted with respect to the critical economic growth area is just the kinds of things you would expect. I'm not going to go through it all, but encourage private sector development, promote a flexible process that supports a high-quality design and appropriately scaled development and supports businesses and services within a built environment near the employment centers and regional destinations, and to promote development and redevelopment in the vicinity of BWI that is compatible with the airport. So when I looked at this particular application and its location, if the board has the mixed-use overlay in front of it, the subject premise will be just to the top of the drawing, basically between the E and the O. There's a strip there where the board has already granted a Class H for urban barbecue, and I believe they've also granted a Class H for a Mexican restaurant. So this location is less than a mile from 700 new apartments, and in addition to the 700 new apartments, which is now called the Elements, it used to be called Arundel Crossing, I believe. There are another 300 units, 320 plus units in the pipeline, and this is because the BWI mixed-use overlay was passed not only as a map that defined an area, but also with new zoning regulations and uses. And I quote from the bill 11615, they promote multifamily dwellings, townhouse dwellings, hotels, motels, offices, and packaged goods stores. So the council specifically stated that they would like to see a packaged goods store, this is my interpretation of the adoption of the bill, in the BWI mixed-use overlay area. That was passed in 2016. There are 2 churches in that area, which does limit the location of a packaged goods store. So we are to the north and not encumbered with a 1,000-foot setback. But the fact of the matter is, we come before you today for a Class A license. This bill that created the mixed-use overlay and suggested, or not suggested, but amended the zoning code to allow packaged goods stores in this area, there have been none. And since the last 5 years since this bill was adopted, if you've been up by the airport, you know there's probably about 23 or 24 hotels. There's, I would say, millions of square feet of office space related to both NSA and Northrop Grumman. And then, of course, you have the employment center that is the airport itself. So when I look at this location and the appropriateness of it in terms of, is there a public need for a Class A license in this area, I think there absolutely is. I believe that this application would certainly be expedient, reasonable, convenient, and useful to the public when, if you just go on Nursery Road and you'll see just the significant amount of development that occurs there. There are no packaged goods stores, and if you go to the south, the first packaged goods store you'll find will probably be at Arundel Mills. If you go to the west, you're going to have to go probably to Howard County, because all the way down to 295 and Arundel Mills Boulevard, that's the first place you find a store in that direction. And looking at the 1 mile radius, Whitey's Liquor Store is just about a mile to our northeast. It is right next to the Beltway, and I would call it a more traditional store in which, they do offer lottery and keno, and you see a lot of signs in the window, and it's been there for quite some time. And then when you go beyond the 1 mile,
Excuse me. I thought we're looking at this mix overview.
Yes.
I don't have a copy of the 1 mile.
I have my hand drawn that I could submit, Mr. Chairman.
Okay.
I'm just speaking from it right now, and I'm happy to do that.
And I apologize, Mr. Chairman. I don't believe an actual 1 mile or 3 mile was submitted with that package, but we can submit this copy here.
Well, I was just wondering if I didn't have what I needed to have.
Well, and it will help you.
I'm having a hard time following you with regard to where Arundel Crossing is. And then the 300 additional units that are going to be there.
Okay, so if you look at the mixed-use overlay map.
I've got it here,
okay.
I think.
In the middle, it appears that there's this, you see the big stream valley that actually is the border, right? That runs from the north to the south. Mm-hmm. All that green undeveloped area.
Okay.
And right where there's a circle at Winterson, you see Winterson Road just south of International Drive. All of that land has now been developed into 700 apartments.
Okay.
And to the south on Andover Road are another 327. There's an apartment building and townhouses there.
Okay.
So again, that's only because, as I said, the mixed-use overlay now permits these types of multifamily dwellings. And so I will pass this up. I'll just point out to the board that the within a 3 mile, you have Nursery Road Liquors to the northeast, which is inside the Beltway, as is Camp Mead Liquors. Both of those are off 170, which runs basically southwest to northeast. And then on the other side of 648, down closer to the airport in Ferndale, you have Doc's Liquors and Christo's Liquors. Those are all far afield from where this location would be. And in addition, looking, there's nothing on this map, but I did look at the other off-sale licenses, the Bs and the Ds, and the only thing I saw was the Olive Grove, which is a B, which is a few blocks south of Whitey's. So apologize for not providing that to the board. I was basically using it as my own work product to understand our situation.
Mr. DiCarlo, would you like this to be an exhibit?
Yes, I would, please.
Okay, yeah, we'll accept that as an exhibit.
Thank you.
Apologize.
We are going to have to hold on to it, though.
That's fine. I apologize for the hand-drawn nature of
We
it.
don't even have it in this book. It's not even here.
No, it was not submitted. I did it later, Mr. Chairman. I'm sorry.
Would you like to see that? That's, yeah, the triples.
So I guess if I may go on, Mr. Chairman, and I'll try to sum up at this point. There are, there are the good planning reasons that I've laid out, the way that the council has looked at this area. This location, I believe, is an excellent location for a packaged goods store. It's also, as I say, probably about a mile from the new 700 apartments. And all of that area where the hotels and the office buildings are, I would say is unserved. It's underserved. It's not served because there is no store. There's no packaged goods store whatsoever. So I believe that in this instance, it's definitely going to be convenient, useful, appropriate, suitable for the public for a Class A license to be granted at this location. In terms of uniqueness, I heard the testimony, and I also reviewed the business plan, and I know that there's specific experience about this kind of high-end boutique type of store. And because of all of the new residential development, I think, what I saw in the business plan was it's an opportunity for them to try and interface and build, sort of a community store in close proximity to these new residences. I looked at this is a brand new, in the last 2 or 3 years, development. So parking and lighting and the layout and the safety are, very new, modern, and I believe very, very, helpful, and there would be no negative impact on public health, safety, and welfare because it's such a new facility. I guess I would just close by saying this may be a little out of the ordinary to discuss public need in this fashion, but I am confident, that the council saw the need. I'm telling you that I believe that there's a need. And it's really an area where there is no opportunity for anyone to visit a store unless you drive another mile to Whitey's or you go into a whole nother driving pattern, which would be way to the east, past the communities.
And then, Mr. Choulier, just to sum up, so there are 700 units that are constructed right now.
That is correct.
A little over 300 in the pipeline?
Probably about 360.
And then it's also targeted for additional growth in the future, is that right?
Yes.
So in your professional opinion, this proposed store will serve a public need for the area?
Yes, that is my opinion.
And then you said you were familiar with the store concept. And do you believe that the store is distinguishable in uniqueness from Whitey's and other stores within the area?
I do, and because of its location and because of the location of these other off-sale stores I mentioned, I really don't think that there's going to be an impact on those stores and their way of doing business. I mean, we're here by ourselves, so we don't see anyone feeling, at least before this board, that they're being infringed upon. So I think there's an aspect of uniqueness. I think there's public need. I think public health, safety, and welfare will be served. And I think that I'm hoping that the board will agree and grant the license.
Thank you. That's all the questions that I have for my witnesses. We'd be happy to answer any questions from the board.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Tullier. Thank you, Mr. DiCarlo. Mr. Chairman, do you have any questions?
Yeah, just a couple of clarifications, I guess, for me. When you look at the 1 mile, 3 mile, and I know it's somewhat unique as far as what's there. Do you have any idea of the residents in those areas?
I looked at, there's a portion of Linthicum Heights is in the 1 mile. I would say it's probably on the order of maybe 3,000 or something in terms of population, not dwelling units. I'm sure, I mean, Mr. Chairman, you probably heard me before. I've done demographic analyses. I've interpreted, the retail gap and the retail surplus reports. But in this instance, being so close to 2 other jurisdictions and such a significant part of them being in the other jurisdictions, the numbers weren't going to be meaningful to me because I can't count the citizens or the rooftops, if you will, in Baltimore County or Howard County. So that's why I think that this location and its proximity to BWI and the mixed-use overlay is important in this instance.
Okay. No other questions for you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Duffy, any questions?
In looking at the development in and of itself,
there you go.
In looking at the development in and of itself, are there any future plans for schools of this nature, religious facilities to be built?
No, there is a church to the east, probably half a mile or 3/4 of a mile away, but this is part of the BWI Technology Park, which has 3 phases. And the first phase is constructed. It's almost 500,000 square feet, which is adjacent to this retail center. And the second phase is underway. And these are all either office buildings or flex warehouse type buildings. So there's really no residential planned or, a church or a religious facility.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Thanks. Commissioner Stoops, any questions?
I just have a question, I guess, as far as the units that are there. I think you said 700 were already constructed?
Yes.
And 360 were in the pipeline?
Yes.
And you're planning on opening the store in about 6 months?
Yes.
And considering the hotels aren't full right now, right, is that going to have an effect on your break even? Where your draw is 1 mile, 3 miles, and I'm just concerned about the population there.
Well, I believe that the draw is, 1, the population with the 700 units that are online now, 300 in the pipeline, as well as hotel guests. But then also, I think is Mr. Tullier, I think I'm saying it right, as he testified to, this is also a significant economic center for the county, so there is a lot of commuters that come in here for work. I mean, you have many, many businesses in this area, so it would also be to draw right from them as they come and go from the county. This proposed location is in a commercial center now, which does have 2 restaurants. It also has a nail salon, and it has a Allstate insurance company. So there will be additional traffic from people just coming into that center. And it's situated off of Nursery Road to capture the employees that are coming in and out as they would get back to 695 or 295 to go to their respective homes if they're not in this immediate vicinity. But the 700 units being there as well as the 300, and just the fact that it's adjacent to this mixed-use overlay zone that is new for the county, gives it an added, almost built-in customer base on day one, where that's 700 extra units that would not normally exist there. And they can guarantee almost guarantee that there's going to be another at least 360 some, I believe, within the next few years. So that is all factored into the business plan. And this is a relatively small store. I mean, we're just under 3,000 square feet. It is not meant to be a large box store or a commodity store as shown in the business plan. They're really trying to be more boutique and generate a repeat customer business. And I think that was shown in the business plan, or at least explained, and really doing kind of customer education, reaching out to the neighborhood, using a rewards program, as well as using tastings and keeping literature in the store to really give a different kind of experience for a customer coming in. Whereas maybe if you wanted to go do lottery, check cashing, something else, you may use one of the stores that are established in the area. But for this, you are going in for a little bit of a different experience. And I guess I'm hoping that answers your question.
Yeah.
All right. Any additional questions from any members of the board?
I'm kind of lost track here. Will we have additional comments?
Yeah, we can have additional comments. I'm just going to leave it up to Mr. DiCarlo to make his closing argument. If he has anything else to add, then we can have some additional comment and go from there.
Sure.
DiCarlo, if you have anything else that you'd like to add, feel free.
Just briefly in closing, I would say that I believe we comply with all of the, or I know that we comply with all of the approval criteria. There is a public need for the store, as was testified to. As we were just discussing, this is in a unique area for zoning purposes, and it's an area the county is targeting for this growth. It's also important to note that the other stores that do exist, the limited stores, Anne Arundel County ones, Whitey's and then Camp Mead and Nursery Road, they were there prior to all of this new development, prior to the 2016 designation of this being a new, being this new overlay mixed-use district. So they are not, they were doing fine before all this new development came in, so it's not like they're taking from the pie of residents they were using initially. I would also like to say that both of the applicants are fit and proper people. Neither of them have any criminal history in their background, no felony convictions. They've never received any violations of any of the liquor laws. The general manager, Mr. Gupta, as well, he has never received any violations in his time in managing liquor stores and also in working in the Watergate store in D.C. The three of them as a team will work very well to ensure that all the practices, all of the store is operating appropriately, and there will be no prohibited practices occurring. Additionally, as far as safety goes, as was testified to, there's adequate lighting, there's adequate parking to ensure that this store will not be kind of cause an undue burden to the public or unduly disturb the peace for anyone. With that, I will submit. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Mr. DiCarlo. Appreciate it. Mr. Chairman, we'll turn the floor over to the board for any additional discussion and then an ultimate decision.
Okay. Yeah, just a couple of questions I have on you said it is just under 3,000 square feet. Just a general question, maybe from the general manager. What's your definition of boutique?
It's more about bourbons that meet with small batches.
You might want to talk in the mic, please.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
So when we say niche and boutique store, it's more about bourbons that we will get from small distributors rather than going to Buffalo Trace Distillery. We will have those, but we are more focusing on local distilleries and small batch bourbons rather than having a Four Roses single barrel, than having a bullet bourbon. Bullet bourbon is something that's all over the place, but not everyone carries small batches, single barrels, rye whiskeys, those kind of stuff in terms of spirits. In terms of craft beers, we want to more focused on local breweries, pretty much in Anne Arundel County and in Maryland State, with other craft beers which are popular. And not many stores nearby carry all the craft beer. They're more focused on Coronas, Heinekens, High Lifes, Ice House, Natural Lights. But I mean, that's there. So we are not focusing on those. We are more focusing on those kind of clients who are more into spending more money, but in a budgeted way, and have a good experience than rather just have a Corona six-pack.
Would you have an idea of what percentage would be beer, wine, and spirits?
I mean, that's something...
Just a rough number.
I would say, based on my previous experiences and being at the Watergate, beer accounts for about 30%, And wine depends upon the neighborhood, how much the neighborhood is. I don't know about this market. We have done some research, but I would say it will be 40, 40, 20.
Okay. Yeah, I also noticed you, in your breakdown analysis, you're looking for about 12 grand a week. Are you going to be open 7 days a week?
Yes, 7 days a week, 12 brands.
To start?
Yes.
And then off and running
It's
from there?
easily doable based on the average ticket that you will get selling those craft beers, which cost about $12 to $14 a six-pack.
Gotcha.
And wines, rather than selling yellowtails, which cost about $5.99, you go up to other region wines, which are about $10, but they taste twice as good, and they do fine with all the different as customer needed.
Okay, and I guess lastly, your mantra is customer satisfaction first, convenience second.
Yes.
And profitability last.
Yes, I mean, we can always make profit.
Is that right?
Yes, I mean, we can always make profit. Profit is there. Okay. But if we don't satisfy our customers, they won't come back, and then we don't have any profits. If we focus on profits only, and then we open the store and we are running the store, they might come one or twice, but then what kind of experience we are giving them than any other store which is around in the city or in the county.
Okay.
So that's where we have all the tastings and everything to not just sell the product, but to also give knowledge behind it. And then they can make their own decision what they want to buy and if they want to go with some other brands or they want to just stick to their local ones.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
Anything else from any board members?
I have none.
I have no question.
Okay.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
I'll make a motion that we grant the license. And do I hear a second to that?
I second.
Second? Okay. Any further discussion? None. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
It is carried. Congratulations and good luck.
Thank you very much.
Good luck, guys.
Have a great evening.
Okay, our final,
What do you want to do with that?
We'll hold on to it because it's part of the record. I'll give it to Judy. Hey, Eddie.
I thought this guy was an expert.
Thank you.
okay, our final case is Skate Zone, known as CRW Skate Inc., Robert Sherman, President, Wendy Sherman, Vice President, Inspector Jason McCarthy. This is for a new license. They're located at 1082 Route 3 South, Gambrills, Maryland, 21054. And it's for a Class D beer wine on sale only, dancing and Sunday license.
All right. Right hand. You solemnly declare and affirm that the penalty of perjury, the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I just thank you. Can you just state your name and address for the record, please?
My name is Wendy Sherman. The address is 1430 Hoppa Road in Crownsville, Maryland, 21032.
Rob Sherman, 1430 Hopper Road, Crownsville, Maryland, 21032.
All right, Mr. and Ms. Sherman, thanks for waiting. But this is your opportunity to present your case to the board. Let us know what you're looking for. Let everybody know why you think a license is appropriate in this location. So I'll turn it over to you, okay?
Okay. So we have been in business since 1996, and we've never had a liquor license, or I'm sorry, a licensed beer and wine license before. We have gotten a lot of requests from our customers that they want to bring their own alcohol in our facility while they're enjoying our experience, and of course we've always declined that. Even on private parties, we've declined. And so we feel like it would be just an added experience. It's not something that we're planning on making a lot of money in. It's just an added thing that we want to bring to the parents while the kids are skating and having a good time at a birthday party. We are planning on limiting their consumption. And my husband can probably explain that a little bit better, but we are planning on doing a pour. Can you explain a little bit better than me?
It's a self-contained refrigerated unit that will be secured and locked. Basically uses RFID technology. Customer would come to the cashier area, purchase their card, we check their ID, confirm everything's okay there. Their card basically comes with 16 ounces of beer or wine to be self-poured. The card has to be inserted into the tap, and it's again pre-programmed with 16 ounces of beverage. They can pour 2 ounces at a time, or they could pour 16 ounces at a time, and that's how that system works. The company's called Pour My Beer.
And we are probably going to try this out with just private parties instead of opening it up to the public. So they would only be able to use the consumption during a private party, so we can monitor it a little bit better before we open it up to the public during open sessions.
Generally speaking, most of our guests are with us about 2.5 to 3 hours. Most of our party times are a 3-hour time frame. Parents are generally ready to leave once they've been subjected to music and kids and arcade games and all that kind of thing. So we see the turnover about every 2.5 to 3 hours. So limiting the amount of the beverage they can pour, which will be either beer or wine, within a 2.5 hour time frame, I think is adequate for them.
You'll have to run that by me. This it's for my beer.
Pour my beer.
Pour my beer.
Pour my beer.
You're going to get a card, and then it's going to be like a vending machine, correct?
Well, it's not. It's a tap. It'll be a tap.
Okay.
It's a self-standing refrigerated cabinet, so to speak, with locks where the kegs would be stored,
okay,
and attached to the tap.
Okay.
There's electronic technology in the tap that once they purchase their card, and it's programmed to have 16 ounces of beer or wine. Once they insert that into the slot reader, into the card reader on the tap, it will access the tap and be able to dispense the beverage.
Okay. So in essence, it's all self.
It will be self-pour,
okay.
yes.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Do you guys have anything else that you'd like to add?
We will be checking IDs up front, so not everyone that we understand that everyone that they won't be serving the alcohol, because we do have underage employees, and we understand that they need to be 18 in order to serve. So that's why we wanted to get with this program with the self-tap, so we can monitor, we can screen them in the beginning when they come in with their IDs, and then we can give them the card. And usually the ones up front that are asking for the IDs are always over 18 for managers. And all of our managers we have 4 managers, including ourselves, or not including ourselves. We've already been through all of the alcohol awareness.
We've all been certified.
We've all been certified.
Okay. Based on that, Mr. Chairman, do you have any additional questions of the applicants?
I'm still having a hard time just planning it out. So these are parents primarily that obviously are people that are over 21.
Yes.
Okay. Are they skaters?
They are skaters.
So you could have a beer or two while you're out there skating?
Well, yes. And it's actually a trend that we've seen in our industry over the last about 5 years.
Okay.
That we as an industry have been sort of going down this road a little bit. and has been well received with little to no issue.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, you've been since '96, I think you said there, but the skate zone's been there longer than that.
Skate zone was built in '74.
And for years, it's never had any alcohol.
Right.
The first thought that came to my mind when I saw all this was this: next, the roadway up the street's going to want to have a liquor license. The go-karts. Just kidding. But that could be a little dicey. But you say in other places in the country that this is.
Yeah, we have several friends around the country that owns skating centers. Some of them multiple skating centers, and they've been selling. They do this thing called sip and skate. It's an adult skate. We ourselves we don't encourage adult skating. We focus on children's parties and school fundraisers and such like that. So we don't really market to the adult crowd. So we're just trying to give those parents a little something nice to enjoy while they're there with their families.
Okay.
And then, to tell you the truth, a lot of times they're drinking in the parking lot, and then they're coming in anyway. Because I see bottles and cans here and there. So
we're trying to capitalize on some of
that. We're just trying to satisfy our requests from our guests that they would like to, just have a little bit of relaxation while they're enjoying our experience. Our private parties are only 2 hours. So 2 hours, and then they come in, they leave after 2 hours. So that's where we're going to start this process to see and monitor how it's going to go and how they're going to receive it.
So what are your hours of operation?
We're open 7 days a week, but mostly nights and weekends right now. With school back in session. So we're open on Wednesday and Thursday and Friday evenings, and then all days on Saturdays and Sundays.
Okay, and this Pour My Beer would be available when you're open?
Well, our private parties are on Sundays, Mondays, and Tuesdays. Okay. So that would be the only option for private parties that we would have, this option for them. So not on the weekends right now, until we get a feel for how it's going to go.
And if you get a license, how soon would you be?
We haven't purchased the equipment yet.
Okay. Yeah.
And I think their lead time is it's growing, but I think we're at probably a 3-month lead time.
Okay.
I didn't want to venture down that path. It's a $20,000 unit.
Sure.
So I wanted to present our case first.
Yeah. Okay.
That's all my questions.
Commissioner Duffy, do you have any questions of the applicants?
Yes, I do have in reference to, in lieu of how you going to monitor this, that wasn't very clear to me. How you would monitor this and who would be responsible for purchasing the cord that you'll be utilizing. And I take it that this machine that you're referring to is similar to the machines that they have in restaurants right now. Is consider McDonald's, Wendy's, and all that have 16, 12-ounce cups. The dispenser that you're referring to.
It's going to look very similar to a beer tap or a wine tap that you would find in a bar or restaurant.
Okay.
It's not going to be a fountain machine where you would put your cup up to it and press the lever.
No.
Okay.
Isn't it already
it's
operating in Columbia? Isn't there a place?
There's several.
There's several.
Yeah, there's several restaurants.
Yeah.
Restaurants, yes.
They use the technology now currently.
Okay. Now, how will you control this in reference to who buy the cord that you slot into the machine? Who's going to be monitoring that in reference to control how many cords a person buy? Are they able to buy 2 or 3 cards?
No, the policy will be one card per visit.
Per visit. And it'll be close to our cafe area where there'll be a kitchen manager there. And so they'll be able to monitor and make sure that the card that is being used is occupied by an adult.
Okay. And how will you distinguish the difference between an adult and a child that's skating might come up and want to purchase a card? How would you distinguish the difference between an adult and someone less than 21 years?
Well, we're going to card everyone that wants to purchase the card. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes. So everyone that is going to be purchasing the card will get carded. Everyone will get carded regardless.
Okay. I have no other questions.
Commissioner Snoops, any questions?
My only question actually was, once they purchase the card, and I think Otis kind of touched on it, is what's to stop them from giving it to someone else to serve themselves and they're 19 years old instead of 21?
Well, that is a concern, and we want to monitor that. Our clientele that skate are usually kids with families, or they are late 20s. We don't have a lot of skaters that are 19, 20, 21, 22. The late teens and early 20s, we don't have a lot of them. They are at the bars. Then they're using their fake IDs.
They're fakes.
Yeah, they're just in a different part of their life, I guess. And then, so most of our clientele are young kids, probably middle school and younger.
That's our target demographic, is 14 and under.
And then families with younger kids and adults, parents. And then we do have some adults that are in their late 20s that come in and skate, sometimes on Fridays and Saturday nights. But that age group, that finite age group where it's 18 to where they want to drink but they can't yet, we don't have a lot of them skating. They're in a different part of their life, I guess.
We lose them at 14.
Yeah.
Then they come back when they're 18 and work.
Usually once they get their license, 15, 16, 17, they're usually driving somewhere, doing something else. And
But
then
it could be an easy spot. I mean, if
It
I'm
could be.
16 years old and I want a beer,
yes,
I can go over to Skate Zone and buy, have somebody else buy it. And I'm just saying, it's something to look at.
Yes.
It may not happen today or tomorrow.
Correct.
And don't discount the 14-year-olds.
Well, it's hard to get a fake ID at 14. But that's why we want to start it at the private parties, because it's smaller. It's a smaller group. We want to, we don't want to open it up as saying we just started selling beer and wine and everybody can try it out. We want to try to contain it in the beginning and then let it get kind of, have it get old a little bit before we open it up to the weekends.
We also have corporate packages that we can offer to stores and businesses, restaurants, and they do team building exercises, stuff like that. And that's always the next question when they're calling to inquire about, a team building day for their restaurant servers or whatever. That's the next question. Do you guys have, beer, wine, or alcohol? And we've had to say no. So it could possibly open up a very nice revenue stream for us for daytime hours when we're not really skating unless kids are out of school. We do have a very nice STEM program, but that got put on hold with the school systems and all that. But so we could open up another revenue stream with corporate daytime hours when we're not generating a nice revenue stream.
Rob and I are very hands-on with our staff and with the facility. we're not just owners, we're operators as well. So
We came from work.
we're very hands-on, and we, is a family business. We care a lot about the community that we are in, and we want to make sure that we're doing the right thing.
Okay. Any additional questions from any board members?
No.
All right, Mr. Chairman.
Well, yeah, I don't have any additional questions, and I'll make a motion that we grant the license to the skate zone, and I'm looking for a second.
I would second.
A second it is. Any additional discussion? Seeing no, all those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? One opposition?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate your time.
Take care, guys.
Appreciate it.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the end of the hearing. I am going to close the hearing. Boom. Done. Thank you. Thank you, guys out there.